Welcome to ECO314, Study Session 8, Channels of Distribution. Introduction. In this study session, we'll discuss the process of distribution and channels of physical distribution. We will also highlight factors to be considered in selecting and evaluating distribution channels and the problems of distribution in Nigeria. Learning outcomes. When you have studied this session, you should be able to 1. Discuss what is meant by the process of distribution. 2. Describe the channels of physical distribution. 3. Explain the factors to be considered in selecting and evaluating distribution channels. 4. Discuss the problems of distribution in Nigeria. Process of distribution. In the words of Udu and Agu 1989, the process of distribution refers to a series of activities which take place between the time of production of goods and services and the time they reach the final consumer, or put in another way, the time taken up by the production unit if such activities are part of a continuing process of production. Colin McLear, 1968, as quoted in ECO314SS8, states that distribution process includes everything needed to convey goods from the producer to the consumer using direct or indirect methods. However, the chain of activities that go on in the process of distribution include handling, warehousing, packaging, transportation, and bulk breaking. The process of this series of activities is to ensure that goods get to the consumer at a convenient time and place. It is through the process of distribution that the gap between the producer and the consumer gets bridged. Distribution ensures that goods are moved from the sea, farmland, forests, and factories to the final consumer. Channels of distribution. By channels of physical distribution, we're trying to examine how goods are passed from one hand to another before they get to the final consumer. Here, the illustrative diagram by William J. Stranton, as contained in ECO314SS8, becomes handy. The figure above shows that 4 channel level of distribution exists, and they are as follows. A 0 level channel. This is typically the channel that runs from the producer manufacturer to the consumer buyer. It captures majorly the perishable goods, for example, tomatoes and vegetables. 2. A 1 level channel. The difference between this channel and the 0 level discussed above is that there is retailer in between the producer and the ultimate consumer. So we have producers, retailers, and consumers. 3. A 2 level channel. In this level, the wholesaler comes in. He then provides the functions of storage, standardization, sorting, grading, packaging, and so on, before then passing the goods on to the retailer, who then makes the goods available to the final consumers. Examples of goods involved in this channel of distribution are wares, rice, soft drinks, etc. So we have producers to wholesaler to retailer to consumer. 4. A 3 level channel. This is the longest among all the other physical channels of distribution. The difference between it and that of the 2 level is the presence of agents in between the wholesaler and retailer. In other words, goods produced by the producers do not get to the retailer directly from the wholesaler, but rather has to pass through the agent. An example of such good is biscuit. So we have producer to wholesaler to agent to retailer to consumers. Factors to be considered in selecting and evaluating a distribution channel. For an efficient and effective channel of distribution to be adopted, the following factors have to be considered. 1. The nature of the goods involved. Obviously, goods that are more durable by their nature will attract a longer channel of distribution compared to the perishable, which are better off when they are moved directly from the producer to the consumer. 2. Demographic factor. This is another factor that has to be considered when selecting, evaluating demographic factor. This is another factor that has to be considered when selecting and evaluating any channel of distribution. It brings to focus the different background of people, their sex, age, and so on. 3. The market size. Marketing scholars have favored shorter channels of distribution for markets with greater potentials. 4. Consumer preferences. Some consumers prefer to buy goods directly from the producers, whereas some others prefer to have the goods supplied to them at their doorstep. This factor indeed has to be considered before any dependable channel of distribution can be adopted. Problems of distribution in Nigeria. At this junction, we shall briefly highlight some of the problems of distribution in Nigeria. They are as follows. 1. Inadequate transport facilities. 2. Inadequate storage facilities. 3. Excessive delay in the supply and delivery of goods. 4. Insecurity on the roads. 5. Numerous middlemen. 6. Unnecessary hoarding. Summary. In this study session, you learn that the process of distribution refers to a series of activities which can take place between the time of production of goods and services and the time they reach the final consumers, or put in another way, the time taken up by the production unit if such activities are part of a continuous process of production. Other important areas discussed in this session include channels of distribution, factors to be considered in selecting distribution channel, and the problems of distribution in Nigeria. This is the end of study session 8. Thanks for listening.